Logical dependencies can be used everywhere you have master data information, so it's not only an item thing, it applies only to the master data information logic. This means if you set it up for customers and vendors or documents, it also applies. And basically, when you set it up, you have to set it up on each information code, so it's applied per information code. This means if on my city bike I have a logic saying that if some other master data is already selected, I can only select whatever information in here. This logic applies to the information code bike type, whereas on my gear, if I have logic saying that the gear needs to be a short down list depending on other master data information, it's set up on the information code gear. And therefore you do the setup directly from the information code, and this is also what determines that you're using logical dependencies. So from bike type, you can enter in the information code list, you can enter the logical dependencies. So just go to the information code list, logical dependencies. These are all the ones working for bike type. And you can see here that you select your information code, you select for which information value or value do we have some dependencies, what is the related information code that we want to look at, and what do we want to check in here. So this means if my bike type is a city bike, the gear has to differ from Tiagra 20. If a bike type is a city bike, the gear has to differ from Tiagra 21. So in the test type, you can select equal, different from, or can be. So different from means that it cannot be whatever the related information value is. Can be means that it has to be, or it could be one of those, so it's like a drop-down list. And if you select that it's equal to, you can only select one list. So you cannot make a setup which conflicts this. So you cannot say on the Colibri bike that you add a new line for Colibri where the gear can't be whatever or differs equals some other stuff, because once you selected one of the type, it needs to be consistent for all that information value. So with this way, it's an either or situation you can set up. And if you want to see all your logical dependencies, you can view the filter. You will have to show system filters, and then you can remove the information code. Then you see across all information code, all of your logical information setup. So on the gear that we looked at, you can see down here that if a gear is a Nexus 7, the bike type can be city bike or Colibri. If the gear is a Tiagra, the bike type has to be equal to mountain bike. And this also tells me that if the gear type is not a Nexus 7 or Tiagra 20 or 21, we could select all bike types because there's no other restrictions. So if we're looking back on the item list and we select, if right now if we look into the bike type, there was some restrictions. But if we look at gear types which is not Nexus 7 or the 21 or 20 gear, now we should expect to be able to select between all my bikes because there's no restrictions. So entering the information code list, either drilling down from the information code here or searching information code list in the header like this, selecting the information code you're looking at, finding logical dependencies, there you do the setup.